For 3 years, this guy swam for an Ivy League men's team and never touched a national title. 1 year after switching to the women's team, he's a national champion. Yeah, we're doing this one. Get comfortable and grab your snacks. Lia Thomas's birth name before choosing to transition was William Thomas. He began a gender transition in 2019 and adopted the name Lia Catherine Thomas. So, a bit more about William. He competed for the University of Pennsylvania men's swim team from 2017 to 2020 with no national title level results. He began the transition process and started identifying as female in 2019. Then, after transitioning, William switched to the women's team for the 2021 to 2022 season. In March of 2022, he won the women's 500-yard freestyle as the first openly trans woman to win an NCAA Division I national title in any sport. His rank in the 500 freestyle moved from 65th on the men's team to first on the women's team. William wasn't anywhere near touching a national level title in the men's division. Then, one season on the women's roster, and he's sitting on top of the podium. 2 days after that win, there's the 200-yard freestyle. This is the race people actually remember because of what happened after it. Lia, William, Thomas, and Kentucky's Riley Gaines tied for 5th place, same time down to the 100th of a second. Here's the detail that actually got people talking. There was one 5th place trophy. NCAA officials gave it to Thomas on the podium and told Gaines hers would arrive by mail later. Gaines held the 6th place trophy for photos. His rank in the 200s freestyle moved from 554th on the men's team to tied for 5th on the women's team, making Riley Gaines and the other female 6th place winner unable to hold their trophies for the titles they won. Nothing says we've thought this through like handing a man a trophy for a tie with a woman in the NCAA women's division. To be clear, 4 other women beat both of them in that race. This isn't the trans swimmer won everything. It's 554th on the men's team to tied for 5th on the women's team. That exposed how unjust the situation truly was. Fast forward, the ruling that's got everyone's feet on fire. States can now ban trans-identifying women and girls from competing on women's teams in public schools and colleges. What that actually changes. It's a state-level policy for school sports specifically. It's not a blanket national ban, it doesn't touch pro sports, and it doesn't ban anyone from existing. It's about eligibility for a specific competitive category. That distinction matters because the way it's being talked about online on both sides is not what the ruling says. If you're about to have this fight in the comments section, at least know what you're actually fighting about. Okay, break time. My brain needs a minute, and so does yours. So let's go live to Kitty Corner to see what the babies are up to. Alright, we are now moving on to Sage's Corner. This is the part where I stop being your tour guide through the timeline and just tell you what I think. Happy 250th birthday, America. We finally have a win in this long transgender war. For decades now, men have been allowed to compete in women's sports without real legislative pushback from our highest judicial court in the United States. But this Supreme Court ruling changes that precedent going forward, and I could not be happier for women and girls' safety as a whole with this ruling. If you don't know much about this topic and think I'm just being transphobic, I cast Uno reverse on you and borrow the trans activism move of suggesting that you educate yourself on what has been going on for years. Men have been using the trans label as a shield throughout the entire Western world. Specifically, a large number of pedophiles and rapists have used this trans terminology and self-identified as female to get into women's and girls' private spaces. The website redux.info has tons of receipts for this, going back over 6 years with documentation of this shield being employed by men throughout the US, UK, and Australia, where Redux is based. So, before you come at me, educate yourself. This ruling is the win we have been waiting for. What has me upset about a lot of these articles is why do they keep calling a man her and she? He's a man. He has a penis. This lying is a large part of what caused this problem to begin with. Men cannot become women. It's impossible. It's unfair, and these transgender sports have been taking opportunities and wins away from women for so long. This is a massive win for true feminism. Female sports are segregated from men's sports for a good reason, and this is the type of segregation and states' rights we should be fighting for. I'm so glad to see this decision upheld by the Supreme Court. This is a big W for common sense. We should not have changed all of the rules for less than 1% of the population to begin with. This was never the right direction to go in. This should have always been a non-issue, but lots of mediocre men saw this as their opportunity to win big and take home awards they could never get in their biological division. My last few videos have gone super dark, and I want to keep this one light. But there are many instances of women and young girls being put in danger by these policies. I look forward to seeing more legislation to protect women and their spaces from these deplorable men going forward. It's insane that some people care more about trans rights than 50% of the population's rights. And that's why I think this ruling is a correction, not a loss. Anyway, back to the numbers. 3 years on a men's roster. 1 season later, a national championship on the women's side. That gap is the whole argument. No hate, not a culture war talking point, a scoreboard that stopped making sense. And now, at least, in school sports, it has to make sense again. That's the video. Let this one marinate in the comments. I already know it's gonna be a mess down there. Well, I'll see you in the next one.
I've heard it 1,000 times before, and it's just not that funny anymore.